You found it on a day like any other. The sky was a placid blue sheet. The air was still. You were tracing the old trade paths, the ones etched into the ruddy dust of the frontier. It was not a quest for treasure. It was simple, quiet work. But the universe had other plans for you. There in the dust, something pulsed, a soft light, gentle as a heartbeat. You knelt, brushing away the loose dirt. It was a seed, unlike any you had ever seen. It was the size of your thumb. Its surface was a swirl of deep violets and blacks, and it was warm, a living warmth that seemed to welcome your touch. You picked it up. The pulsing grew stronger in your palm. It felt less like an object and more like a trust. A secret passed to you from the cosmos itself. You closed your hand around it. The warmth spread up your arm. It felt like coming home, a home you never knew you had. This was no ordinary discovery. Your heart told you this simple truth. The quiet rhythm of your life was over. The steady pulse of the seed promised adventure. It promised danger. It promised a destiny you could not yet fathom. You stood, the dust of the path forgotten. The seed was your only map now. The seed did not speak in words. It spoke in feelings, a gentle pull, a persistent nudge in your mind. It urged you toward the high ridges, toward the forbidden territories of the elders. Everyone knew the stories, the tales of the ancient wall, and the garden that slept behind it, a place no one had entered for 1,000 years. The pull was undeniable. It was a current in the river of your thoughts. Every step toward the forbidden zone felt right. The sun beat down on you. The journey was long, but the seed in your pocket was a constant comfort. Its warmth was a promise, a silent companion on your strange new path. You started talking to it, just quiet murmurs at first. It seemed to listen. You walked for days. The landscape grew wilder. The familiar markers of the frontier vanished, replaced by ancient, silent stones. The air itself began to change. It grew thick with unspoken history, with the weight of a long-forgotten age. The seed's pull became a powerful tide. It was drawing you to the heart of a great mystery. You finally saw it at dusk. The wall. It rose from the earth like a natural cliff, seamless and dark against the twilight sky. It stretched as far as you could see, a silent testament to the power of the elders. The legend said it was built to keep something in, not to keep people out. A chilling thought. But the seed's call was stronger than your fear. It was time to go in. You found no gate, no seam, no obvious way through the ancient barrier. The wall was a perfect, unbroken line, but the seed in your hand pulsed faster. It grew warmer. It guided you along the base of the wall. Your fingers traced the cool, smooth stone. Then you felt it. A section of the wall that was not stone. It was an illusion, a projection of solid light. Your breath caught in your throat. This was the entrance, hidden in plain sight for centuries, a testament to forgotten star science. You hesitated for only a moment. The world you knew was behind you, a world of dust and quiet routine. Ahead lay the unknown, a forbidden garden. You pushed your hand through the illusion. It passed through with a soft whisper. You followed, stepping into the legend. The air inside was different. It was thick and heavy. It carried the scent of damp earth and ancient blossoms. It felt like the air in a room that had been sealed for ages. A silence profound and deep surrounded you. It was not an empty silence. It was a watchful silence, as if the very trees and stones were holding their breath, waiting to see what you would do. You walked deeper into the garden. Giant, silver-leafed trees towered over you. Their branches twisted into strange, elegant shapes. The ground was a carpet of moss that seemed to absorb all sound. No birds sang, no insects chirped. There was only the sound of your own quiet footsteps and the steady, reassuring pulse of the seed in your hand. Every plant in this garden was alien. They glowed with a soft, internal light, hues of emerald and sapphire and gold. It was a place of breathtaking beauty. But the oppressive silence was unsettling. It felt like you were an intruder in a sacred space, a trespasser in a living, sleeping cathedral. You felt 100 unseen eyes upon you. You knew you had to plant the seed. It was the reason you were here. The purpose that had guided your long journey. You searched for the right spot, a place that felt special, a place the seed seemed to yearn for. You found it at the center of a clearing, a small patch of dark, rich earth, untouched by the glowing flora, a perfect circle of night in a sea of light. You knelt, the heavy air pressing down on you. You dug a small hole with your bare hands. The soil was cool and fine. It felt strangely vital. You held the seed over the hole for a moment, a silent farewell to your little companion. Then you placed it in the earth. You covered it gently. Your part in its journey was done. Now, its own journey would begin. You did not have to wait long. Almost immediately, the ground began to tremble. A faint light pushed up through the dark soil. It grew brighter and brighter. A single sprout emerged from the earth. It was not green. It was made of pure, white light. A sliver of a captured star. It grew with impossible speed, reaching upward as if greeting the sky. The sprout unfurled 2 leaves. They were shaped like tiny, glowing hands. The light they cast was brilliant, yet soft. It did not hurt your eyes to look at it. Instead, it filled you with a sense of peace, a sense of profound rightness. The watchful silence of the garden seemed to change. It felt less like judgment and more like awe. Your small act of faith had changed everything. The sprout of starlight was a beacon. Its light was a song the garden had long forgotten. You watched, mesmerized, as the sprout continued to grow. It pulsed with the same rhythm the seed had held, a steady, reassuring heartbeat. You had not just planted a seed. You had planted a star, and its light was just beginning to shine. It was a pretty good start for a trespasser. The light from your star sprout did not stay contained. It flowed outward like liquid silver. It touched the glowing plants nearby. First one, then another. As the light touched them, their own glow intensified. Their colors became more vibrant, more alive. A low hum started to build, a sound that seemed to come from the very soil. You watched in amazement. The light spread like a gentle wave. It moved through the entire garden. Ancient flowers bloomed in an instant, their petals unfurled with silent grace. The silver-leafed trees began to shimmer. Their light pulsed in time with your sprout. The garden was waking from a long, deep sleep, and your plant was its alarm clock, a very shiny one. The hum grew into a chorus of soft tones. It was a symphony of life renewed. The air, once heavy and oppressive, now felt electric. It vibrated with a newfound energy. The garden was no longer just a collection of strange plants. It was a single, connected being, a living network of light and sound. And you were standing at its very heart. You felt a connection to it all, a sense of belonging that warmed you to your core. The garden was accepting you. It was thanking you. The unseen eyes you had felt earlier now felt like a welcoming gaze. You were no longer an intruder. You were a part of this place now, a vital part of its reawakening. You had given it a gift, and now it was giving you one in return. Your moment of peace was interrupted. A figure emerged from behind the largest of the silver trees. It was tall and slender. Its body seemed to be woven from shadows and moonlight. It had 4 long, graceful limbs, and a head that tilted with intelligent curiosity. It was not a creature of any known world. It was the garden's guardian, and it was walking toward you. The creature moved with a silent, fluid grace. It stopped a few feet away from you. Its eyes were large, dark pools. They held an ancient sadness. When it spoke, its voice was not a sound. It was a wave of thoughts that washed directly into your mind. "You have woken the garden," the thought voice said. "A wondrous and a terrible thing." You stood your ground. The creature did not feel hostile, but its presence was overwhelming. It was dying. You sent back your own thought. A clumsy attempt compared to its effortless communication. "The seed, it led me here." The guardian tilted its head. "The seed chose well, but its light is a beacon, and it will attract the blight." "The blight?" you asked. The guardian's thoughts showed you images, swarms of dark, corrosive motes. They consumed worlds, leaving only gray dust behind. They fed on light, on life itself. "A star-born plague," the guardian explained. "It consumed the garden's builders. It has hunted this place for ages. The wall has kept it at bay, but the garden's new light will call it home." The warning was clear. Your miracle had a price, a terrible cosmic price. You looked at the vibrant, humming garden. Then you looked at the strange, lonely warden. It had protected this place for centuries, all by itself. "I will not let that happen," you projected. Your thought was filled with a fierce determination. "This garden will not fall." The warden studied you for a long moment, its dark eyes searching for the truth in your mind. The guardian extended one of its long, shadowy limbs. It did not touch you, but you felt its thought. A proposal, a pact. The garden needs more than a protector. It needs a champion. Its light is a weapon, but it must be wielded. You understood. The two of you together, a guardian of shadows and a champion of light. "I will help you," you sent back, your resolve hardening. "We will protect this place together." The warden's mind voice was filled with a flicker of something new, something that felt like hope. Then a pact is made between the old shadow and the new light. It was a strange alliance. You, a simple explorer from the dusty frontier, and this ancient, star-born being. But in that moment, it felt like the most natural thing in the world. The warden was a creature of few words, or rather, few thoughts. But it was an excellent teacher. It showed you the hidden corners of the garden, the secret paths, the places where the energy flowed strongest. Together, you tended to the newly awakened plants. You learned their rhythms, their needs. You were no longer just a visitor. You were becoming a part of the garden's lifeblood. It seemed like a lot of work for someone who was technically breaking the law. The warden led you to the base of a massive, fossilized tree. It was older than anything else in the garden. Its stone bark was covered in intricate carvings. The elders did not build this place. The warden's thoughts echoed in your mind. They found it, just as you did. It pointed a shadowy finger at the carvings. They were not the geometric patterns of the elders. They were fluid, organic symbols. You ran your hand over the stone. As you touched the symbols, they glowed faintly. Images flooded your mind. You saw a race of beings made of light and music. They moved through the cosmos, planting gardens on barren worlds. They were the original gardeners, the builders of this Eden. You saw them fighting a desperate battle against a creeping, shadowy decay. The blight. The images were fragmented, full of sorrow and loss. You saw the builders fall, their light consumed by the insatiable darkness. But before the end, they sent out seeds, a final, desperate act of hope. Seeds that would sleep for millennia, waiting for someone to find them, someone who could reignite their light. Someone like you. The truth settled upon you with a heavy weight. This garden was not just a collection of plants. It was a legacy, a weapon, an ark. The elders had found it and, fearing its power, had sealed it away. They had become its jailers, not its protectors. They believed they were keeping a great power contained. They did not understand they were hiding a great hope. You pulled your hand back. The glowing symbols faded. The warden stood silently beside you. It had known this history all along. The blight is coming. Its thoughts were somber. It has tasted the garden's light. The first signs were subtle. A single leaf on a sapphire vine turning a dull, lifeless gray. You thought it was a natural cycle at first. But then another leaf turned, and another. A patch of the vibrant, glowing moss began to fade, its light sputtering like a dying candle. The decay was slow, insidious, a shadowy infection spreading through the garden. The warden's thoughts became sharp with urgency. It is here, on the outer edges. You raced with the warden to the garden's perimeter, near the invisible wall. A section of the beautiful, alien plants had turned to brittle, gray husks. The air was cold. The life-giving hum of the garden was replaced by a deadening silence. The blight was not a creature you could fight with your hands. It was a creeping, spreading wrongness. You watched in horror as a vibrant golden flower began to wilt. Its petals curled and darkened. Its light was devoured by the encroaching shadow. The blight was a cancer. It was eating the garden from the inside out. The warden reached out with its shadowy hand, but it could not touch the decay. Its power was in concealment, in misdirection. It had no weapon against this creeping death. Your heart ached for the dying plants, for the beautiful living world that was being consumed before your eyes. You felt a surge of anger, a fierce protective instinct. You ran back to the center of the garden, to the clearing where your star sprout grew. It was now a small, elegant tree, its trunk and leaves made of pure, solid light. It was the heart of the garden, and the blight was coming for it. The decay was spreading faster now, a tide of gray and black washing over the vibrant colors of the garden. It crept across the clearing. The beautiful mosses and flowers at the edge of the circle withered at its touch. The warden stood beside you, its mind a quiet broadcast of sorrow and despair. It is too strong, the thought came. The light is not enough. But you refused to believe it. You placed your hand on the trunk of the star-born tree. Its light was still bright, still pure. No, you said, your voice a defiant whisper in the dying garden. It has to be. You focused all of your will, all of your hope. You poured your own energy into the plant. You urged it to fight back, to unleash the power you knew it held. The tree of light responded to your touch, to your desperate plea. The pulsing of its light grew stronger, faster. It drew energy from the very soil, from the network of roots that connected everything in the garden. The light intensified until it was almost blinding. The hum of the garden returned, not as a gentle melody, but as a rising roar of power. Then it happened. The plant unleashed a silent, brilliant pulse of energy. A wave of pure white light exploded outward from the tree. It was not hot. It did not burn. It was a cleansing fire. The wave swept across the entire garden in an instant. It washed over the creeping blight. The shadows sizzled and dissolved under its touch. The gray, withered plants flaked away into dust. The wave of light was a pure expression of life's fury. It was beautiful. It was terrifying. It was salvation. The pulse of light struck the invisible walls of the garden, and it did not stop. It passed through the ancient barrier, a silent, expanding sphere of brilliance that shot out into the sky. A declaration to the universe, a statement that this garden was alive, and that it would fight. Back in the clearing, the light subsided. The garden was still. The blight was gone. Every trace of it had been burned away. Even the wilted plants were stirring, new green shoots emerging from the gray husks. It was a miracle, a very loud, very bright miracle. Probably not the best way to keep a low profile. The brilliant pulse of light did not go unnoticed. It was a flare of impossible energy, a signal that could be seen across the system. And it drew the attention of the self-appointed masters of this sector. The Elder Ones arrived in force. Their ships were massive, geometric constructs of black metal. They slid through the atmosphere with silent, arrogant grace. They positioned themselves in a perfect ring above the garden, a crown of judgment in the sky. A transport vessel descended from the flagship. It landed silently just outside the garden's invisible wall. A ramp lowered. 3 figures emerged. They were tall and imposing, clad in ornate robes that seemed to drink the very light from the air. Their faces were hidden behind masks of polished obsidian. These were the elders, the keepers of the old laws, the jailers of the garden. They walked to the edge of the illusionary wall. They did not try to enter. They simply stood there. Their presence was a crushing weight, a silent accusation. You could feel their minds touching the edges of the garden, probing, analyzing. They felt the renewed life. They felt the lingering energy of the light pulse. And they felt you, the trespasser, the catalyst. The central elder raised a hand. A deep, resonant voice echoed, not in your mind, but in the air itself. It was a voice accustomed to absolute obedience. You have broken the covenant. You have entered forbidden ground. You have awakened that which should have slept. The voice was cold, devoid of any emotion save for a stern, unyielding authority. The warden materialized beside you, a figure of shadow against the bright garden. It was ready for a conflict it could not win. The elders had come to pass judgment, and their laws had only one sentence for a crime like this. You and the warden stood side by side in the central clearing. The star-born tree pulsed gently behind you, a silent, glowing ally. Before you, projected on the air itself, were the images of the 3 elders. Their obsidian masks were inscrutable. Their judgment was absolute. The garden's power is a threat to stability. The lead elder's voice boomed. It was sealed for the safety of all. Your actions have endangered this entire sector. You are wrong, you said. Your voice was steady, filled with a conviction you did not know you possessed. This garden is not a threat. It is a cure. The warden stood silently beside you, but you could feel its agreement. Its solid presence at your back gave you strength. It was strange. You were defending a garden full of glowing plants from the system's most powerful rulers. You had to admit, your life had gotten significantly more complicated. The blight is real. You continued, your voice rising. It is a darkness that consumes everything. This garden is the only thing that can stop it. You did not seal away a danger. You locked away the only hope. You projected the images from your own mind, the history you learned from the fossilized tree, the race of light, the desperate battle, the final, hopeful act of sending the seeds into the void. The elders were silent for a long moment. You could feel their minds processing the new information, a truth they had ignored for 1,000 years. Lies. The elder on the right finally spoke. Deceptions from a forbidden power. The garden must be purged, its light extinguished forever. Ships in the sky began to glow. Their weapon ports opened. They were preparing to sterilize the entire area, to turn this beautiful, living world into a sheet of glass. The warden stepped forward. It sent a powerful thought directly at the elders. An image of its long, lonely vigil. Centuries of standing guard, of watching the slow decay, of feeling the encroaching dark. It was a testament of unwavering duty, a truth more powerful than any law. The trespasser is now the protector, the warden projected, and I stand with the light. This was it. Two worlds colliding, the old law and the new hope. You and a shadow creature, standing against the might of the elders, you braced for the end. But the end did not come. As the elders' ships powered their weapons, the star-born tree began to glow brighter. The light it emitted was not a pulse of fury this time. It was a gentle, overwhelming wave of pure creation. The light intensified. It filled the entire garden. It passed through the walls. It washed over the elders' ships. And in the heart of that light, the central plant did something impossible. It flowered. There was no sound, no explosion, just a silent, blossoming eruption of light and color. A single, gigantic flower unfolded from the top of the tree. Its petals were woven from nebulae and starfire. At its center was a core of pure, white energy. It was the most beautiful thing you had ever seen. A perfect act of creation in the face of ultimate destruction. The flower bloomed for only a second. Then it dissolved. It shattered into 1,000,000 points of light. 1,000,000 glowing seeds. They did not fall to the ground. They shot upward, a silent, sparkling fountain that rose into the sky. They passed through the baffled elders' ships. They flew out into the upper atmosphere. And then they were gone, on their way to the deep, dark spaces between the stars, on their way to 1,000 barren worlds. The light subsided. The garden was calm. The great tree was still there, unchanged. Its work was done. The elders' ships floated in the sky, their weapon ports still open, but their energy readings fading. They were stunned into inaction. They had come to extinguish a candle, and they had instead witnessed the birth of a sun. You let out a breath you didn't realize you were holding. It seemed you had a flair for dramatic gardening. The elders stood down. Their ships retreated into a passive orbit. The lead elder's projection appeared before you once more. The booming authority in its voice was gone, replaced by something else. Awe. We have been blind, it said. For 1,000 years, we have been the guardians of a prison, when we should have been the keepers of a promise. The obsidian mask of the central elder dissolved, revealing a face that was ancient and lined with care. Its eyes were old, but they now held a new understanding. The blight is the true enemy. We see that now. We have monitored its spread for generations. We thought it was a force of nature, unstoppable. We were wrong. The elder looked at you, not as a criminal, but as an equal. You have shown us the truth, the elder continued. You did not just save this garden. You have given the galaxy a fighting chance. Those seeds, they are a new beginning. The warden stood silently. Its long vigil finally vindicated. The heavy weight of its duty had been lifted. The elder then made a proclamation, one that would echo through their entire civilization. The old law is dead. The garden must be protected, nurtured. Its purpose must be fulfilled. Then, the elder looked directly at you. A faint smile touched its ancient lips. The warden has stood guard for an age. But the garden needs more now. It needs a champion, a voice. It needs a new guardian who understands the light. The title settled upon you. It was not a sentence. It was an honor. You who had stumbled upon a simple pulsing seed. You are now the protector of the most important place in the universe. The elder ships did not leave. They remained in orbit, not as jailers, but as sentinels, a fleet dedicated to protecting the garden from any threat. The elders, with their vast resources and knowledge, now served the garden's cause. They sent probes into the deep dark to follow the path of the star seeds, to find the worlds where new gardens might one day bloom. You were no longer alone. You had the wise counsel of the warden and the might of the elder ones as your allies. You would walk the garden's paths, tending to its wondrous alien life. Your small, glowing sprout had become the seed of a galactic renewal. The work would be long. The fight against the blight was far from over. But for the first time in millennia, there was hope. The garden became your home. Its vibrant light and humming energy were a part of you now. You would often stand in the central clearing, your hand on the smooth, warm bark of the star-born tree. You could feel its connection to the million seeds it had sent into the void. You could feel them traveling, searching, waiting. This place, this endless Eden, was just the beginning. It was the first note in a symphony of life that would one day fill the universe. A universe of gardens awaited. And you, the trespasser turned guardian, were there to watch them grow. You looked up at the sky, at the distant, waiting stars, and you smiled. The adventure was just getting started.